They descended into the trench not for a day or a week, but as if the earth had become their new sky. The most terrifying thing was not the guns pounding somewhere ahead, but the realization that after a few weeks you stopped remembering what normal life looked like without mud, stench, and the constant feeling that something was watching you from the darkness beneath your feet. "Do you hear that?" a soldier whispered, clutching his ration as if it were the last proof of humanity. "That's not artillery. It's something else. It's moving between us. I swear it looked at me yesterday, the way creatures look when they're no longer afraid of people." Another laughed nervously, sharply, the kind of laugh meant to drown panic, because in the trenches fear and laughter always walked side by side. "It's rats," he rasped. "They've lived here longer than we have. They eat our dead, our food, and our nerves. And if you think they're afraid, try taking bread from them." The soldiers lived in the trenches for months, knee-deep in water, among bodies that couldn't always be removed. The rats grew with the war, fat, brazen, so large they could snatch food straight from your hands without running, without hiding. Here, in the mud of the First World War, humans were no longer the masters. "He pulled my piece right out of my hand," the first said, his voice shaking with rage and despair. "I felt his teeth through my sleeve, and the worst part, I didn't even have time to be afraid. I realized that to him I was just another source of food." Shells tore the air above, but the real war happened below, in the darkness. Rats ran across sleeping faces, gnawed at wounds, dragged away biscuits and meat. Every night became a test, not of courage, but of sanity. "We're not soldiers here," someone whispered in the dark. "We're feed, and if bullets don't break us, these creatures will. The war has taken not only our sky, it's taken the feeling that we're still human." And this is where the story truly begins. Not with an attack or an order, but in a trench where soldiers of the First World War lived for months beside creatures that became a symbol of how far war can drag a person down. When even rats stop being afraid and start pulling food straight from your hands, looking at you as an equal or as future prey. Over time, they stopped reacting to the squeaking. It became background noise, like artillery. That was more frightening than the rats themselves, because it meant a person could get used to anything, even to something living on you, beneath you, beside you, without hiding or retreating. "They're waiting," a soldier said, staring into the darkness where the earth stirred. "They freeze when we move, and crawl again when we stop. Like they've learned our rhythm. Like they know we'll tire before they do." Another nervously lit a cigarette, shielding the flame with his hand. Light attracted more than bullets. "They eat the dead," he said quietly, without disgust, only exhaustion. "And when there aren't enough, they try the living. The worst part isn't that they bite. It's that you lie there deciding whether it's worth moving, because any movement might draw something worse." The trenches were full of water, rot, and bodies that couldn't be taken away. The rats thrived, grew larger, lost their fear. Soldiers felt not just revulsion, but humiliation. Every night something nameless proved they had sunk lower than they ever thought possible. "Yesterday, one jumped on my chest," a young soldier said, his voice breaking. "I shoved it away. It didn't even run. It looked at me, like it was deciding if I was worth the effort. That's when I realized I'm not the predator here anymore." Sleep became torture. Closed eyes meant teeth on your face. Open eyes meant endless night. Men began fighting over crumbs, over dry ground, because nerves were eaten the same way as bread and flesh. "I'm not afraid of the attack," someone said with bitter laughter. "I'm afraid to fall asleep. A bullet kills fast. They're slow. There's more cruelty in that slowness than in any weapon. Commanders told them to hold on, promised rotation. Days blurred into weeks, weeks into months. The trench stopped being a position. It became a trap, where war killed not only bodies but dignity, piece by piece. "If I get out of here," one whispered, "I'll never say again that a person is hard to break. Down here they don't break us with guns, they break us with what crawls over us at night." This is where the second act becomes unbearable. The soldiers begin to realize they are losing the war, not only to the enemy ahead, but to the trench itself. Slowly, silently, turning people into beings who fear not death, but night, where rats are afraid of nothing. The line finally snapped. The night one of them screamed so loudly that even the artillery seemed to fade. It wasn't a cry of a wound. It was the horror of realizing he no longer controlled his own body. "Get them off me!" he screamed, thrashing in the mud. "They're everywhere. They're in me. They know I'm weak. They wait until I sleep. I can't anymore." Two men held him down, clinging as if they were saving not a person, but the last fragments of sanity. Each of them knew it was only a matter of time. In his eyes they saw their own tomorrow. "Quiet," the sergeant begged hoarsely. "If they hear, they'll shell us. Then the rats will feast. There'll be more dead." The words were more terrifying than any threat because they were simply true. Death here had a hierarchy. A bullet was quick. The trench chose the slow way, through sleeplessness, fear, and self-loathing. "I saw them drag him by the collar," someone whispered. "Not a body, meat. I'm not sure we're any different to them." After that, something changed. Men stopped talking about home, stopped counting days, stopped believing in rotation. Each morning felt not like living, but enduring another sentence. "I don't dream of peace," one said quietly. "I dream of a dry floor and a night without movement. If nothing crawls on me for a few hours, I'll remember I'm human." Rats ran openly now, even in daylight, as if they knew there was no power left to frighten them. Soldiers caught themselves watching them not with hatred, but with strange envy. These creatures had adapted to war better than they had. "They'll outlive us," someone said hollowly. "Maybe that's why they're so comfortable here." This is where the third act reaches its darkest point. The war is no longer armies against armies. It's a battle between humans and an environment designed to break them, where rats are not the cause of horror, but its mirror. After that night, the trench stopped being just a place. It became a state of mind. Daylight no longer meant safety. It only revealed what darkness hid. "Look at us," one soldier said with dull fury, staring at his hands caked with filth. "We rot slower than the dead, but faster than the living. I'm not sure we can go back, even if the war ends." Orders came to hold the line. Reports spoke of resilience. Down here, resilience was measured in nights survived without losing your mind. "They don't know what it's like," the sergeant whispered, looking upward. "Or they do, and they've decided it's an acceptable price." Disease spread faster than bullets. Wounds didn't heal. Sleep shattered. Men feared not battle, but the order to stay. "I'd charge right now," a young soldier said calmly. "Not because I want to kill, but because dying in motion feels more honest than living while being eaten alive." The rats became part of the scenery. That normality was the most frightening thing of all. "We're not people anymore," someone said quietly. "We're the environment the war lives in." Here it became clear. The First World War killed not only with explosions. It created conditions where the human mind had no chance. Rats pulling food from hands were only the visible sign of how far it went. The end came not as salvation, but as exhaustion. Even when they were finally pulled from the trenches, legs didn't obey, eyes didn't trust the light. The darkness remained inside. "We got out," one said, standing on solid ground. "But I don't feel like we left. Something stayed down there." They walked in silence. Speaking of the trenches was worse than silence. War had learned to eat people slowly. "I still wake up from the squeaking," another admitted. "Even here, I'm not sure I'll ever sleep for real again." The trenches were behind them, but the war wasn't. Survival didn't mean rescue. "They call us heroes," someone said bitterly. "But if a hero is someone who learned to live among rats and corpses, I'm not sure I want that title." This is the true horror of trench warfare. The First World War didn't just kill soldiers. It sent survivors home carrying darkness, where rats once pulled food from their hands, and humanity became a luxury. The trenches grew over with grass. But for those who lived in them, they never disappeared. The real scar remained in the silence between breaths, where even years later, you could still hear the squeak you could never escape.